there's a lot more to Betty than just wanting to be with Archie, and that's very important for us. That was important that we kind of set that tone for our show, that Betty has a lot more going for her than just Archie. Both the girls, both Betty and Veronica, because in the comics it's just kind of a back and forth, between which girl Archie wants which day, but in our show that's definitely not the case. These girls are very strong and independent women, and they don't get walked all over by Archie. And Betty is dealing with a lot of family problems in this show and in this season. She's dealing with her sister is was sent away, and Betty's kind of uncovering or trying to discover why, and so many parents are keeping so many secrets from her, and there's just a very big divide between Betty and her parents, and that's a big arc for Betty. But I mean, she's still dealing with Archie and a love interest, but it's a lot more to it than that.
When you read the pilot script, were you surprised with how quickly Betty and Veronica became friends? Because they're usually known to be...
Yeah. I mean, I guess I was expecting it to be maybe a little bit more catty, but I'm glad that it wasn't. And I'm glad that at the end of the day, Betty and Veronica aren't rivals. They're friends, There is drama and there's problems between them, and they can bicker and fight because they're so different, but they're friends at the end of it. But yeah, I mean, they're friends and they support each other, and it was important. That's important.
You talked about the importance of having Betty be kind of a strong character into herself. How do you balance that when you're playing off somebody like Camilla, where like Veronica is an incredibly overpowering presence? She shows right up and is just like, oh, you're going to be a cheerleader now.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, Betty's strong in her own sense, and you see that throughout the season when she fights against her parents to find out what happened to her sister. She's maybe not as confident and as bold and blunt as Veronica, but she's strong in the sense that she'll do anything for her sister specifically, and she's just a really good friend. But mainly you see how strong she is when it comes to Polly and finding out what happened to Polly and what went down between Polly and Jason. It's just family means everything to her.
She's such a classic girl next door within the comic books, but would you say then that does she have edge? Is she a fighter?
She's a fighter. She really is, and she has a lot of built-up anger that you kind of can see in the pilot when she's, digging her nails into her hands, and you can tell there's more going on inside than meets the eye. Betty and Cheryl have a very interesting relationship. I think to Cheryl, Betty is the perfect target because she's so sweet and nice and forgiving. And Cheryl's so manipulative. And you see this throughout the beginning of the season. Cheryl tries to manipulate Betty into kind of getting more information out of what happened between Polly and Jason, because no one really knows. And but I mean, Betty kind of grows stronger throughout the season and comes into her own a little bit, because she doesn't let people walk all over her, and so she, can stand up to Cheryl a little bit. But there's a love-hate, because they do work together in the end to try and find out what happened to Polly, but at the end of the day, Cheryl just is pretty nasty human being, and Betty doesn't put up with that.
We know that Archie and Jughead had some sort of falling out, but it's really mysterious in the pilot, and it will be moving forward, it sounds like. Is Betty involved with that storyline at all? And what is Betty's relationship with Jughead like, if she has one?
Yeah. Betty is not directly involved with the Archie and Jughead fallout that I know of. Like, honestly, we don't know who killed Jason. We aren't told these things. We have no idea. So not that I know of, no, but Betty does have a very strong relationship with Jughead throughout the season. They work together to try and figure out what happened to Jason and who killed him, because they think that the Blossoms and the sheriff are hiding something. They think their town is corrupt, so they want to know what really happened to him because they think the police are lying to them. And since, you know, they're high schoolers and they can talk to Jason's peers, they try and get the inside information and kind of work together to solve the mystery a little bit.